Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm James, your everyday cook. On today's episode, we are going to make salsa 3 ways. We're going to make restaurant style in a food processor, one that's hand chopped, and then mango salsa. And to accompany those, we're going to make some awesome store-bought chips, more awesomer, with some chili, some paprika, and some lime. But before I show you how to do that, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and click the bell button so you can get notified. Come cook with me. So for today's recipe, we'll be prepping all of our ingredients in advance. That's one of the things I really learned through working in different kitchens and, preparing meals. It's really to have mise en place. And you're like, James, that's a fancy term. What does that mean? It just means getting everything ready to be cooked. So that way you're not scrambling and be like, oh, I forgot an onion, I forgot garlic. It seems like I have a lot of bowls here, but that's kind of how it keeps you organized. Make sure you don't miss any ingredients. Let you review if you did miss out something, if you're reading a recipe to the side and you're like, oh, I forgot avocado or a lime. So it's just really important for mise en place or getting everything ready before you start cooking. I'll continue to do that throughout every episode because it keeps you organized. So little chefy-ish tip. Okay, so first we'll start off with our tomatoes. For this recipe, I do about 5 tomatoes. These are already been washed. Okay, so with making salsa, when you prep these tomatoes, you want to actually cut them in half. And then actually scoop out the insides of the tomato. Because when you do make this salsa, all that extra moisture is just going to make it really watery, and that's not what you want. So use a big spoon or a small spoon, whatever you have. You can even use your fingers and rip it out, but like I just did. Put those tomatoes over to the side. Oops. Got a squirter. Okay. You can actually, don't even throw this away. You can make tomato soup out of it. You can add it to a salad. But some of that extra moisture isn't good for the salsa. You're actually going to get moisture after you make the salsa anyways, because tomatoes are going to constantly release their moisture, but this just helps kind of prevent that a little bit further. We're actually making 2 types of salsa today. We're going to do a tomato salsa and then a mango salsa. I was actually walking on the beach the other day and kind of feeling tropical, so I was like, you know what, let's make some salsa for the weekend. Have some chips and dip. Okay, so we'll discard that. So our tomatoes have been hollowed out, so we're good there. All right. Next is chopping the onion. So what I like to do is take the top off, take the bottom, and this is a really big onion. Discard that. Cut it in half. And actually for both salsas, we'll actually use only half this onion since it's so large. We can use this for another recipe. All right. So the chefy way is slicing it, horizontally, then vertically, and then choppy, choppy, choppy. But what I found is there's already layers of the onion internally, so you don't really have to cut that. So I just kind of make the same size slices down the onion, and watch out for your fingers. And then you always want to cup your hands, like cup it, so you don't cut off your finger, obviously. And then we're not in a kitchen. We're not in a professional restaurant where you have to. So I just do simple cuts. And I'm only going to cut half this onion because for the tomato salsa, we're actually going to be doing it in the food processor. And you're like, James, what if I don't have a food processor? I'll show you what to do. So we have a couple rogue onions, but that's okay. So I will save some of these onions. Now, a lot of people want to scrape their knife against the cutting board. That's kind of dangerous if you're not practiced enough. I mean, I'm an everyday cook, but what I really like to do, not only will it prevent you from getting cut, it actually dulls your knife when you run it against the cutting board. So I actually like to use a bench scraper. All right. Ooh, that onion is strong. Okay. So there's that. And we will save this for our salsa in the food processor later. So we'll put that to the side. Actually, we'll just put it in that bowl. Okay. So next is our jalapeno. So for the tomato salsa, with 5 tomatoes, I like to use half a jalapeno because it just seems like the right amount of heat. I like it spicy. Woo, that onion. I like it spicy, but not a lot of people like it spicy. So you can add more jalapeno, less jalapeno. So we'll kind of put that to the side too. But this is for our mango salsa. I like to leave the seeds on, and then I like to kind of cut these in strips. You're basically just running your knife like a boat action. And that's how you really cut your items, and then always keep your fingers tucked in. I have lost a fingernail here or there, but you know what? It happens. All right. So cut these into little strips. Official term is julienne, but we ain't official over here. All right. So, and then you just kind of turn them horizontally and then continue to chop. God, that onion is strong. Okay. Put this over to the bowl to the side. Okay, chefy tip. Wash your hands and utensils after you handle jalapenos. Okay, because you don't want to like rub your eye or touch something else and then you have hot jalapeno whatever. Okay. See, I just touched my eye, and if I didn't wash my hands, we would have had an issue. So, garlic, I have a couple cloves of garlic. Again, for the tomato salsa, it will be going in the food processor, but I'll show you tips and tricks on how to do it if you don't have a food processor. Now, everybody has a food processor, and that's absolutely fine. And the last thing, we're going to prep for our mango salsa. So, I know there's a lot of tips and tricks on how to really get the flesh from it. I've never tried them, honestly, so I'll just kind of do it my way. I always like to peel the skin off. I've had a lot of practice doing this. I used to do it on pineapples, cantaloupes, honeydew. When I worked at a country club, we would have a ton of fruit we would have to cut and clean and prepare. So I'm kind of becoming an expert at this. Still not 100%, but we'll continue. You're just gliding your knife around kind of the circumference of the mango or lime if you needed lime or orange, lemon. But again, just practice. And that's really what becoming a really good home cook is, or really with anything you do, is just practice, practice, practice. Still practicing with this YouTube channel. Okay. Alright. This smells really good. Alright. So just continue to work that. Alright, so you know there's a pit in here somewhere. So normally what I like to do is just kind of cut there, and you can kind of see it there. You can kind of actually feel it. So then I just go to the other side, and you can kind of hear it with your knife too. So do that, and then there's flesh here, but again that pit is kind of aloof. So that means hiding or sneaky, I think. Not fancy. So all right. So then there's that, and I like to try and save as much as possible. And then kind of like a scavenger hunt for mango. Okay, I think we're good there. So we will go ahead and put this to the side. And then for this mango salsa, again, you want, when you're doing mise en place, you're prepping your ingredients, every ingredient needs to be the same size, width. They kind of all need to be in like same shapes. If these were potatoes and you were making a recipe, if you had them in different sizes, they would just cook differently. Some would be raw, some would be overdone. So it's always nice to kind of prep your ingredients in the same like manner. That way they cook the same time, and then there's not like a textural difference. And that sounds kind of fancy, but it will definitely help out your recipes. So I'm just kind of cutting these into strips. Okay. These are getting kind of sloppy. Sneaky snipes, sneaky mango. All right, so these big chunks, I just kind of cut them. Careful with your fingers. And then I just kind of cut them into strips. Again, we're just rocking the boat with your knife, keeping your fingers out of the way. And into small little cubes, because this will be salsa. And this won't be broken down anymore, so you kind of want those finer bits. You still want that texture of the mango. And you don't have to do as many strips if you're not comfortable. You can do 3 at a time. We're not in a rush. You know, we're just making dinner. We're making salsa. Whatevs. Have a margarita. Or 3. Whatever. Okay. And again, this is the perfect point about mise en place. I forgot a bowl. So let me grab a bowl. In this larger bowl, we can make our salsa later on with it. So it's kind of perfect. All right. Perfect. Okay, so today we're making 2 different kinds of salsa. We're making a traditional restaurant style, very authentic tomato salsa, and then we're also doing a mango salsa. Now, earlier I explained that this will be done in the food processor. Now, if you don't have a food processor, I will show you how to make this amazing salsa just with a knife. But for right now, we're going to use the food processor. So the first thing I do is get that ready, and then I put the onion. So this is a really large red onion, so I did a quarter of a red onion. So put that in first. All right. And remember I said a half a jalapeno for this recipe. You can add more if you want. Kind of dice it in thirds. And then I do 3 garlic cloves. You can cut them in half. It's all going to get pretty chopped up pretty finely. I don't like big chunks of onion or jalapeno in my salsa. So we will go ahead and get this started. Yeah, a little bit more. Okay, perfect. Is this what you're kind of looking for? That onion and jalapeno are strong. Okay. Get a little spatula. Alright, so that's how I do this. And I say restaurant style salsa, I should really rename it to Dave's salsa because I've been making this salsa 10 years now. And honestly, one of my biggest fans of the salsa is Dave, who is my best friend's brother-in-law. Every party, Super Bowl party, birthday party, Halloween party, Christmas party. I mean, they wanted this salsa, so this is really good salsa. Not to pat myself on the back, but it's really good. Okay. So this is actually Dave's salsa. Alright, so we'll put the onion, jalapeno onion mixture to the side. And remember we previously took out all the wet insides of the tomato. Again, it's just to prevent further moisture. So you can actually tear these up with your hand. Be careful of the blade in the food processor. Again, this is 5 tomatoes, halved. Okay. So then we will go ahead and put this on. And you want to pulse this. You don't want to leave it on for... You kind of just want to get those tomatoes chopped up. And I always check it to see if there's any like big chunks that are just stuck in their weird position within the blade. So I just kind of stir it around. Okay. And this is just to your liking. There's one little tomato little thing in there that's just stuck and it's not going nowhere. So you might have that. Again, this is just for us to enjoy, so if there's imperfections, that's fine. We're all flawed, even our salsa. Okay. So that looks... This is the guy that does not want to cooperate. Okay. So I put that in our bowl. Be careful of your blade. And I forgot our cilantro, but you know what, we'll make it work. And with the cilantro, some people love a ton of cilantro, some people like a little bit, so actually, I'm going to put this in here. Now the thing with cilantro, everybody thinks like the stems are like, the leaves are the best part, but really a lot of the flavor is in the stem, so I use the whole thing. That way there's no waste, you get all that great flavor. So I use a handful of this in there and then kind of break it up a little bit. I'll add some salt. Okay, and then we will add the juice of a lime. Now with limes, you can roll it, you can put it in the microwave. You don't even have to have a press like this. You can just use a fork. I found sometimes where I flip it inside out and just use my fingers and kind of get all in there. So let's see how juicy this lime is. So I'll show you both methods. So you can use a fork. If you're just kind of moving your fork in between those wedges of the membrane. It does a pretty good job if you don't have a juice press or juicer. So you don't have to have fancy tools and gadgets to get the job done. So that's kind of what I like about being a home cook, because I don't have all the fancy gadgets. The only thing really fancy I have is my food processor and my mixer. So I've been creating a lot of good food, so I'm just going to use the fork because it's working so well. Sorry, juicer. Your time has passed. Okay. All right. Awesome. So that's there. All right, so we'll go ahead and get this. And you do want to get this pulverized pretty well, because again, there's stems in there along with the leaves, so you just want to... I'm actually going to add that little last bit of tomato in there to see if he can decide to be cooperative with this. Cilantro, maybe they can be buddies in another life. I don't know. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay. Looks pretty good. So then we will go ahead and add our cilantro. So again, we have onion, about a quarter of a large onion, red onion, half a jalapeno, 3 garlic cloves, 5 tomatoes that we've kind of pureed to your liking or diced up to your liking, and then I would say about a quarter of a cup of chopped up cilantro, 1 lime. We did add a little bit of salt in here, you remember, because we were going to break up the cilantro in the food processor. So at this point, we will just stir this up, and then we'll add our salt and pepper to taste. So, and again, this looks a little thick, but those tomatoes will continue to release their juices as it rests in the fridge. This is honestly one of my favorite things to make. Just so fresh and so easy. Once you really think about it, it's so easy to do. So, all right, so that's all mixed together. Let me get a little spoon. Actually 2, because I want to taste it. Yeah, I need some salt. And then a little bit of pepper. About a teaspoon, half teaspoon. And if you like things more peppery, I love pepper. I love heat. So you can just add whatever you want, because it's your salsa and you're an everyday cook. So you can just do what you want. All right. Looks pretty mixed to me. And again, these flavors will continue to like develop, and you know, the lime and the jalapeno and the red onion along with salt and pepper. So tomorrow tastes a little bit different, but today we can get kind of the essence of so good. Hey guys, so as mentioned before, we are making salsa 2 ways. The first way we made earlier with the food processor, and that's a simple way, gets everything chopped up really quick, and then you know you're on the go. But one of my friends was like, James, I don't have a food processor. How do I make salsa like you do? And I will show you. Okay, so remember we had our tomatoes that we hollowed out, got rid of all the excess liquid, because again, it's just going to make it, you know, juicier, if you want to say that. So I'm just going to show you a small version of this, just so we don't have gallons of salsa for the weekend. So I took a tomato, actually flattened it out, because it actually helps you cut it a little bit better. So what you want to do is, again, tuck your hands, use your knife like a rocking boat, and then you're just going to cut really, really fine strips. Like finer, I mean, you could go bigger and that could be pico, but to make really fine strips. Again, you're moving your hand backwards as you're moving the knife along your cuts. All right. And then sometimes you just don't get that fine because it's the end. Okay. So then you just kind of turn that horizontally, and then you're just going to, again, chop in the other direction and just do fine. Ooh, fine cuts. All right. So continue to do that. Some of them will kind of get away from you, and I kind of move them back into their place. And then sometimes when you get to the very end, they just kind of get all crazy. So I just kind of, there's some bigger pieces here. I just kind of move it along and then chop. Sometimes I'll rest my hand on the knife, just kind of get out of the way and continue to chop, chop. All right. Again, don't scrape your knife against the board, just so you don't cut yourself and also so you don't dull your knife. So use a bench scraper. All right. And then do the same with the other tomato. Another tip too, make sure your knife is sharp. One of the worst things you can do is use a dull knife. It's not going to do you any good, and you'll probably hurt yourself in the end. So make sure your knife is sharp too. So that's another chefy tip for free for an everyday cook. Okay, so continue to dice these into really small pieces. Again, you can do this to your liking. You can do them big, you can do it small, just depending on what you prefer. Just remember, we're going to dip this in a chip, so you don't want it so big or so large that it breaks the chip and you really can't use it. Okay. And I just did the thing I told you not to do, scrape my knife. Okay. It's hard to break old habits. All right, so we are going to dice up this onion pretty finely again to kind of match the size of the tomato. You want everything to like same sizes and shapes. We won't use this whole onion because again it's a really large red onion. So you're just going to do not even a quarter of it. Alright, so that goes in the bowl. Alright, so garlic. You're like, how am I going to get garlic fine? One of the things I've invested in and continue to invest in is a microplane. You're like, what's a microplane, James? It is just a fancy grater. Instead of like those big old box graters, this just gets everything fine. You can use it for cheese. You can use it for chocolate, like shaving chocolate. You can use it for zesting any kind of produce, like limes, oranges, lemons, grapefruits, depending on what you're doing. So you just continue to move it back and forth. There's going to come a point where you just can't grate it anymore, and you risk losing your finger top, and I don't recommend that. So you're going to have to kind of discard that. So 2 garlic cloves. Again, you can add more garlic if you want, less, up to you. All right. And then you just, all right. So that's microplane. Awesome little tool. It's inexpensive, has a lot of great uses. So we'll put that to the side. Jalapeno. The last recipe for that, for the 5 tomatoes, we use a half a jalapeno. Since we're only using 1 tomato, I won't even use a quarter of it because I don't want it too spicy. So again, I like to press it flat so you have control of what you're doing. Rock the boat with the knife. Really fine strips, as fine as you can get it or want it. And then turn it horizontally and then continue to chop. We're not in a rush. Again, we're just cooking. So you don't have to rush through this. You don't have to be a super chopper unless you want to be. All right, and I'll also go back and just kind of chop it a little bit finer. All right, looks pretty good to me. All right, so there's that. And again, I wash my hands after I mess with jalapeno. Okay. So then again, we won't use the juicer because we're everyday cooks and we will not have a juicer, so we'll use a fork. I'm going to only do a half a lemon. Maggie, my dog, is wondering what's happening in here. She can't have any of this. She's nosy like that, but she's a good girl. Alright, so half a lime. Alright. And remember a lot of the flavors in the stems for cilantro, but right now we're just going to use a little bit of cilantro at the tops because we don't have that much fresh salsa. Right there. So you're just going to rock your boat, kind of move it together. And you're just going to go back and forth, different kind of ways. You can kind of go up, go sideways. That's going to kind of make sure you get every angle of what you're chopping to kind of make sure there's uniformity within it. Alright. Move that. Yum. And then lastly, salt and pepper. This is to taste. Some people like saltier things, some people don't. I love black pepper, so I'll normally add more than what is preferred, but that's just me. So about a quarter of a teaspoon, about a half a teaspoon of salt. Again, if you're making a bigger batch, you know, it would be different. I said it looks pretty good to me. So there is your homemade salsa without a fancy processor, because we're just everyday cooks making salsa. Hey guys, welcome back. On our third adventure of making our salsas, for this episode, we're going to be making a mango salsa. So before, when we did our mise en place, which where we got everything prepped in advance, we have our mango, we have our red onion, we have our jalapeno, we have some lime, but the last thing we need to do is use our microplane for our garlic, and then also chop up this avocado. I saved chopping up this avocado for last. Instead of doing it with the prep is because it browns really quickly. That lime juice, I don't know why I'm saying lemons, limes, tomato, batata. It will brown quickly. So I just wanted to say that's the last bit when we finally finish the mango salsa. So we have our mangoes, we have our red onion, we have our jalapeno. Woo. And do about a half teaspoon of salt, a little quarter teaspoon of pepper. All right, and we're gonna rasp in our, this is called a rasp too, but microplane. Watch out for your fingers. And remember, don't go all the way down to the bottom, because then you'll get your finger. Just move that back and forth. And for this also, I'm not going to include cilantro. It's kind of cilantro forward already with the other two salsas that I made. So this is just going to be the mango, the avocado, jalapeno, onion, garlic. All right. So use our trusty fork to get the juice out of the lime. And again, you're just moving that fork back and forth within the sections of the lime. Just kind of get that. And since there is avocado going to be in the salsa, I'm actually going to do another half a lime. All right. Again, to get the juice out of the lime easier, you can microwave it for 30 seconds. You can roll it on the counter. Sometimes I've even flipped it inside out and kind of massage it a little bit, and you get kind of everything, and then it leaves basically nothing. So it's kind of nice. All right. So kind of give that a quick little toss. All right, so put that to the side. What we will focus on now is how to get the flesh of the avocado out of the avocado easily. This is pretty soft. So what I do, this is a chefy tip alert. I cut the bottom off. Cut the top off, or when it wants to come off. Okay, split it down the middle. You know, there's a core on the inside, so you just kind of leave your knife still, move the avocado along, break it in half, right? Be careful with this, but I always hit the seed with the knife, and you can just kind of pull it off gently. And then the magic of it is you can actually peel this off in one piece, leaves it whole. Kind of nice. So if you want to make slices of avocado for tacos, if you want to dice it up, if you want to, just removes all the meat of the avocado very easily. So we are going to just cut this vertically. Doesn't have to be perfect. It can be as big or small as you want. But again, with salsa, I kind of want to match the size of what the mango is. So then just kind of turn it horizontally, and then kind of chop, rock the boat, keep your fingers out of the way. You get nice, perfect cubes. All right, so chop this one up. Okay, so pretty. Love avocado. All right. so there's that. Now, since avocado is delicate, and this is actually very ripe, I'm going to trade from using a fork or a spoon. And I'm going to switch to a silicone spatula. You don't have to use it, but just to kind of prevent the avocado from getting mushy. And really, this is a simple technique. You're just kind of folding it in. What that means is you're just scraping the side of the bowl, lifting up. You're just kind of moving everything around gently. We're not stirring vigorously or like beating it to death. We're just kind of stirring, making sure that lime touches all that avocado to keep it from turning brown. That lime really does a good job. So there you have it. This looks delicious. Can't wait to have you. Okay, and there's our mango salsa. So coming up next, I'm actually gonna zhuzh up some store-bought tortilla chips to go with our restaurant-style tomato salsa and also our mango salsa. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back. To go along with our 3 types of salsa we made, remember we made the restaurant style from the food processor, kind of a homemade hand-chopped version, which is pico-ish kind of version, and then we also made a mango salsa. So to go along with those, we need some chips, right? We need something to dip it with. And being an everyday cook, you don't have to make everything from scratch. I have supermarket shortcuts. There's things that, even being a pastry chef, sometimes I'll use a boxed cake mix just to kind of, if I'm out of ingredients or in a pickle with time. So not everything has to be homemade. So I do have some store-bought chips that I've laid out on a little baking sheet. I actually put like a little wire rack underneath it to create airflow so they don't get soggy or whatever the case may be, or stick. So I've done that. I'm actually going to spray these with a little bit of cooking spray. The only reason I'm doing that is because we're going to add our spice blend to it. So I have a mixture of smoked paprika, chili powder, and salt. These are actually kind of already salty, so I didn't add too much salt. About a teaspoon of each. If you don't like something, don't add it. I've added just chili powder and salt, so it just depends. So then we sprayed those with the Pam, and we're just going to sprinkle this on. Kind of zhuzhes up an everyday plain chip. And I like to sprinkle high. You get an even distribution, can't even talk today, of spices or salt or whatever you're doing. This applies to meat. This applies really to anything you're seasoning. Just sprinkle up high. You get an even distribution of everything. Alright, so that looks pretty evenly coated. I like some spicier than others. You almost get like little nuggets of extra spice. So I will go ahead and put those in there. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, and then the last part is we're going to squeeze some lime on there. This is going to like kind of wake these up a little bit. Actually make the spices stick a little bit better to the chips with that extra moisture. And again, high so you can kind of shimmy the juice. It's an official cook term, I think. Who knows? I make up my own words all the time, so whatever. It's your rules, it's your kitchen, it's your cooking, so do whatever you want. Alright, so pretty straightforward. We're going to pop these guys into the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes until they become crispy again, because we did add moisture with the Pam, cooking spray, and the lime, and we'll be right back. This is the James cam. Look at these chips. Oh, they look so good. Ooh. Hey everyday cooks, thanks for watching. In this episode we made salsa 3 ways, a mango salsa, a salsa using the food processor, and if you don't have a food processor, one prepared by hand. We also learned how to zhuzh up store-bought chips. I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. Come cook with me.